Hi everyone. I decided to discuss the pros and cons of flipping the classroom using this video format. It seemed appropriate. So what are the pros to flipping? Well, let's look at first the videos. Instead of lecturing in person to your students, we're going to put these lectures now on a video where the students can watch them. So what is the benefit to doing that? Well, there's several of them. Let's take a look at them. Salman Khan, who's famous for the Khan Academy, said in his TED Talk that one of the important things about the video version of a lecture is that you can watch it, you can pause it, you can rewind it. Basically, the student can go at their own pace. Not only can you pause it and watch it at your own pace, you can actually go back and watch it again. I actually flipped a couple of my units this year, and I found that my students told me that they rewatched the videos right before the test or they rewatched them right before the final. So not only can they pause them and go back the first time, but they can go back a second and a third time. Also, next year I'm really excited because I get to reuse these videos. So even though I didn't flip all my units, I'm going to be able to reuse the videos that I used for some of the units last year. I may need to go back and change a few, but at least I have a good base to start. I also get to reuse the videos for each of the classes. So if I make them for my one honors class, I have them for all of my honors classes. So it does save me some time. Also, lectures are considered kind of a passive time with your students. You're talking and the students are listening. There's not a lot of interaction. Well, at least sometimes there's not. And so, because this is a passive time, can be done effectively at home where the students can just listen. They don't need you there, they can just listen and see your lecture. And it's a better use of the time. Also, in our textbook that we read by Berkman and Sams, we found out several other reasons, and one of those reasons was, what about students who are absent? Or what if you're absent? The students used to get behind because they had to come in and get lecture notes and they wouldn't understand the material, but now they can watch the video instead. Also, some students are really busy during sports seasons or during a play, and so these students can also watch your videos ahead of time if they know they're going to be in a particularly busy season of either sports or theater or something else. So if you used to lecture in class and students did problem work outside of class, what happens to your class time? Well, this allows for more interaction now because you are no longer spending that passive time lecturing. You are allowing the students to do homework problems or maybe work on laboratory since I teach chemistry or more activities. So that this allows for more interaction between the students, between student and student, and also between you and your students. So let's say you used to lecture in class and do problems at home. Now, if they listen to the lecture at home, they can do the problems in class. But often they get stuck on a problem. So maybe they only did 3 out of the 5, or they didn't do any because they didn't know how to do the problems. And they come to you the next day unsuccessful. Now that time can be more productive because you can help the students who are struggling, or you can have the students help each other. It also allows for a varied activities. So maybe you don't want to do the problems in class. I teach chemistry, so we use that extra time in class to work on research projects and experiments that the students were doing. If the students are struggling, they can get more individual help from you. And if the students are really advanced, they can move ahead. Because of the lecture format that is now on video, this allows for you to do something called mastery, where the students can go at their own pace. They don't all have to be on the same page on the same day, because the lecture used to limit where they were on day 1 or day 2, but now if the lectures are on video and they are done ahead of time, they could move ahead. They finished activity 1 in lecture 1, they can move ahead to another activity in another lecture. I did this last year, and I noticed that the students' grades were raised. not all of them, it's the bottom curve that went up. So instead of having more B's and C's, I had more A's. My A students seemed to do well no matter what I was doing up at the front. They succeeded with or without me. But the struggling students all seemed to be raised. So I was really encouraged by this. Also, because they were going at their own pace, they could even watch some of the videos in class. So they were done with the video last night. They came to class, they worked on the problems, they finished way before everybody else. They would have been done for the day. So now they can go ahead and watch the next video and do the next problem set if you use a mastery approach in addition to flipping your classroom. So there was a lot of individualization, and the students also took ownership of their learning because they decided how far they were going to get each day. If they were done early, what were they going to do with their time? They could do the next video, the next activity. Maybe they worked a little bit on their experiments those days. So here are some of the references: the Flip Your Classroom, our textbook, and the TED Talks. So what about the cons? What about the videos? What is the con of the video? So the first con is it does take time to make them. So you have to learn how to use the video recording devices, and there's several of them, and I'm still learning all the time about how to make that an easier process. Also, as pointed out by Dave Coffey and John Golden in their kind of critique of the Khan Academy video, you have to be really careful if you use someone else's videos because there's mistakes. I've looked at my videos and there are mistakes in my videos. And you don't want to send these mistakes on to your students. So you do have to always be careful when using someone else's videos. So another thing is maybe you've been a lecturer that has spent a lot of time making your lectures more interactive because we said passive learning was not good. So you've made your lectures interactive. You have points where your students have to answer questions or talk amongst themselves while you're pausing. And now when you put them on a video, they've made your lectures that you've worked hard to be interactive, not interactive again. So that can be a con. Chris Deed, who is a Harvard professor, points out that you really haven't altered education that much by flipping the classroom if it's still a lecture-based idea where you're just watching the lectures at home and then coming to school and doing the homework. It's still the same two processes: lecture, homework, just flipped when you do them. And he proposes that we need to get away from that altogether, that the lecture should not be driving our curriculum. And it's that idea that I think is really fascinating, and I hope we get into more when we talk about the project-based learning aspect of this classroom. Another con to the video is that students can't ask questions live. They can ask questions online, but it's not in a live right when they're listening to the video. Also, you can't see students' faces. Often when I'm talking to my students, their looks on their faces tells me to slow down or speed up. They can pause the video, that's true, but I sometimes reword things if I see puzzled looks. And so when I put a video together, I won't see those puzzled looks until the next day. So that can be a con also. Another thing is students may not do the homework. They may not watch the videos at home. And so they come to class and you have planned this very cool discussion or you have planned this very interesting lab and they're not prepared to do that. When they're home, they also have technology problems possibly. Their internet, the computer access is not available. They went to use it, watch the video on their cell phone, and there's a problem with that. So there are technology cons to doing that. They usually can have paper and pencil to do homework problems, but not always technology problems. And the last con is I just put down tonight because I had technology issues. I was getting all excited about this flipping, and tonight it took me forever to make this Prezi. The computer froze, and so it's been a very long process tonight. So when you're making videos, sometimes it's a long night. When it's going to be 10 minutes, it's a lot longer. So just a realization tonight of a reminder of how the videos can be draining sometimes. And so what about the classroom? What are the cons that happens in your classroom now if they watch the videos at home? Well, Joshua Kim points out in his 6 myths of the flipped classroom that students may complain. Often they would rather do the homework at home. If I give 10 minutes at the end of a class, okay, you have 10 minutes to work on your homework, they pack up and put their books away and they think, I'd rather do it at home, because it's easier for them to be passive in class. So some students will be resistant to the flipped classroom. Also, unstructured time. Maybe you have an hour class and you used to lecture and then do a little homework and then you finish the homework at home. And now you've put a video at home and you're going to give them a whole hour to work in class. Sometimes that's just way too much time. And students are not always good time managers. Also, mastery. If you have them work at their own pace. Some students are very motivated and will keep up with the pace, and some students will not. So those are the pros and cons. Here are the references for the cons. So what is our big conclusion, or my big conclusion from this? Well, here's my conclusion. As you probably see, I am hooked. I tried it last year and I really fell in love with it. So what about all those cons I just talked about? Well, I am working on them, and here are some of my solutions, and I don't have all of them yet, so I'm hoping this class will help me out. I found that I'm just going to make the time to make the videos because I really liked how it worked out. I decided I'm only going to really use my own videos. I want the students to hear my voice and my words, and finding videos of someone else often introduce things that I didn't always agree with. To make the videos interactive, I've had students answer questions right after the video, and I've also done something fun. I had students build molecules when I gave a lecture on molecular shape. So they build molecules at home. I sent them home with marshmallows and toothpicks with my video, and they had to make molecules at home and then take a selfie, a picture of themselves on their cell phone, and post it on our community page. So you can make the videos interactive, which was important to me. I want to add, I have not done this, but I want to add place for them to ask the questions right where they're thinking of it online, so I can see those questions for the next day, so that I can follow up. Also, I want to follow up if they're not watching, so I'm putting my videos on a form where it records who is watching the videos, so that if they're not watching it at home, we can have that discussion. I'm also going to try to limit the unstructured time in my class, so like 30 minutes. Otherwise, students stray and they don't stay focused and as long. And I decided to ignore the complaining. The very first unit, I had lots of complaints, and they had the highest scores on that test. So I decided to ignore the complaining, especially at the beginning, and at the end I found that there was a lot less complaining. And I find that the tech problems do get less and less, especially some of my students just watched the videos on their cell phones, and they had less tech problems with cell phones than their computers. I really am interested also in getting away from a lecture-driven class to a more problem-based class. So those are aspects that I'm still excited about, and hopefully we'll learn together. So, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this Lisa Talk.